you led the Clippers to their first playoff series win, if I recall. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
And so the expectations were pretty low back then, and then they get Paul George and Kawhi, and now expectations are big, and they're about to get swept in the first round. And Cuttino, I'm sorry, but Steve Ballmer didn't pay $2 billion cash to get run by the Mavs in the first round as a favorite. If this thing's a sweep, you played for teams. Not all series losses feel the same, Cuttino. Some are humiliating. What do you think happens if the Clippers get swept in the first round?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, it's tough. With the Clippers, I don't, as much as I love the individual players, I don't feel as though that they are a good mesh together. And it seems like they're being exposed. You haven't really heard of them making any noise this year, even though they played pretty well on and off. But it seems like right now it's more of a psychological thing that Dallas has their number. And Luka is just very hard to deal with because he's 6'8". He's not a skinny kid. He's been playing in the pros since he was, 14, 15 years old. So it doesn't matter who guards him. And so when the Clippers right now, for me, understanding the Clippers, I just think it's it's a mental block about how do we get past this situation, because of course they're hearing all the news, and if they don't win this series and they get swept, what will we do? Will we blow up the team? Blah blah blah. So that does take a toll for them.
Meanwhile, the Lakers last night, I was saying this, Anthony Davis is much better than Rasheed Wallace, but I covered Rasheed, and when Rasheed wanted to be great, he could do it all. He could shoot jumpers, put it on the deck. He could post up. He was a great defender. Did you ever play with anybody like Anthony Davis, who was incredibly talented, but you didn't necessarily get the aggressive version every night? Not every guy's built like Michael Jordan, that he wakes up every morning and wants to get into a fist fight. Like, you played with some guys like this probably, right? Is it frustrating?
It is frustrating. Listen, I hold my heart very close with Rasheed Wallace because we grew up together. We're very close friends. They were best friends growing up. Myself, him, Alvin Williams, all of us grew up together. So Rasheed Wallace was just more of a team player. So whatever the team needed, he did. I think what Anthony Davis is, Anthony Davis is amazing. 34 and 11 last night. But it's, when you remember when he was with New Orleans, he was doing 45 and 17 boards and he would still lose. I think the best thing about the Lakers and Anthony Davis giving the 34 and 11 and dominating is that you had that LeBron James and you had these role players that are literally cleaning up all the mess that he didn't have when he was in New Orleans. When it comes to like a person like Anthony Davis, for me, and seeing how dominant he can be every single night, sometimes I don't see it on some nights. And then he'll have a bad game and he comes back and he has an amazing game. I like to see that more so every single night with Anthony Davis. But I think also, too, is that LeBron James factor where he makes it a lot easier. So Anthony's just out there, beating people up one-on-one by himself, kind of.
I think people, after Miami got to the finals last year, we all expected, an encore. And it's like, nah, sometimes you just have a year when you get some breaks, you're healthy. They were in the bubble last year, a bunch of young kids in the bubble, and the veteran teams did not play particularly well, and they had a bunch of young kids. It was like AAU basketball, and they loved it. And I look at Miami, and people are going to say, what a disappointment. And I'm like, well, they were like a 5 seed, 6 seed last year, 5 seed this year. How about just Milwaukee's way better? And Milwaukee added pieces. Like, I don't think Miami's a huge disappointment. I just think Miami was a little bit of it was lightning in a bubble last year, right?
Yeah, you know what, Colin, you hit it right on the nose, man. I love watching you. You're very accurate it's definitely with your and what you see. Milwaukee's a better team this year, and when you have one of the best two-way players in the game in Jrue Holiday, it makes you that much better. I mean, we're talking about 3 or 4 possessions where it changes the game to where you're winning by 15 points. Because mentally you've drained the opposite team, and Miami, I think they're like, when you have a lot of those guys, like you said, it was more of an AAU environment for a lot of those young guys. That's why you see the Tyler Heroes of the world and all these guys doing so well inside the bubble. and a lot of the veterans were struggling. I think, with coming off of that finals for Miami, there was a little bit of celebrating and that we can't wait till next year comes. And then injuries started to hit and they finally realized, oh, this is the NBA. We're going back to big arenas and we won't be closed in. So, it's tough for Miami, but I think, you can't discredit Milwaukee. Milwaukee's a lot better, than they were last year.
Yeah, they don't need Chris Middleton to give him 28 a night. If he gives them 20 and hits some shots, now with Drew Holiday, he can be a 3, and I think that's what he's built to do. Now, it's funny. The Knicks, sometimes you just need a soul as a team. You got to have a culture. Not every team has NBA Finals talent. Brooklyn's got a lot of talent. The question for them is, can they kind of find a soul? Well, the Knicks have the soul. They play defense. They play hard. Everybody plays big minutes. It's Tom Thibodeau. I don't think they have a ton of talent. Did you ever plan a team a little bit like the Knicks, where the ceiling was low, but the belief and the nightly belief, man, we're going to outplay people. We're going to outwork them. We're going to outdefend them. Because I look at the Knicks and see this really low ceiling, but I love watching them play. They play so hard. They found their foundation. They just need now shooters. Do you ever play on a team like that?
You know what? I don't know if I played on a team like that because a lot of the teams that I was on were very talented. Whether it was the Rockets with myself, Steve Francis, Yao Ming, or Sacramento Kings. Well, actually, how about Orlando Magic, where it was myself, Steve Francis, Dwight Howard, Jameer Nelson, Hedo Turkoglu, Grant Hill. And then you have Sacramento Kings, where it's my big bibbies, Peja Stojakovic, Chris Webber, Brad Miller. And then I go to the Clippers, where it's Corey Maggette and Elton Brand and Sam Cassell. And so I had talented guys on the team. But when with the Knicks is Tom Thibodeau was my coach. I think he's the best defensive coach ever in the history of the game. And that's the way they play. They'll always go to the playoffs with Tom Thibodeau, I think. Because that's how he was in Chicago. That's how he was when we were in Houston. I think they just need something else. I'm not really sure what it is, but they do need something else. They have a lot of young guys that they can build off of, but I wouldn't want them to get caught up in that New York energy where you start to feel yourself, right? You have to literally stay the course, understand the development of the game. And because they're younger, the Julius Randles of the world, you're a little nervous playing in the playoffs, especially with this environment with New York. And you got Spike Lee on the sideline yelling, and all crazy stuff, which we love. But it's just, I think with Tom Thibodeau, his teams are always 50-win, 60-win teams. It's just about getting over that hump. And I'm not really sure what that hump is.
By the way, you're wearing a shirt you look fantastic in. I would look ridiculous in. And you can always tell people that have style. Because if I wore that shirt, it would just not work anywhere, anytime. And you wear it, and you're like, man, that guy looks lit. He looks cool. So congratulations on having style, Cuttino.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you, brother.
Good seeing you.
Great to see you.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.